Very glad to be here with all of you today. I'm Tammy, and we are very pleased. Amber and I worked together, and we were so delighted to get the invitation to share this content with you. Obviously, you can see from the slide what we're here to talk about. I often refer to this idea of imposter syndrome as a psychological phenomenon. And it's really, I don't know how much information you have about it. I don't know if anybody has actually researched on it or if signing up for this session was sort of a first, dipping your toe in the water to figure out what this is all about. But it's good to talk about. It's good to reflect upon because it really can have some implications for your confidence level, for decisions that you make as you pursue your career journey, no matter where you are in that process, or even in just life decisions, things that you do, maybe you're on career number 2 or 3, or maybe you're beyond that. And you want to think about doing and pursuing some new things. And so imposter syndrome can certainly have an impact on all of that. And if you've not really heard or aren't too familiar with the term, I think you can relate to some thinking sometimes. We get these voices in our head. Maybe you've thought, I'm just not sure that I really belong here. Everybody seems so much smarter than I am. So maybe you've felt that in a new job or in sort of a school environment or just a new experience, social settings, all those kinds of things. Another example would be maybe you think you have to work harder than everybody else. Otherwise maybe you feel like you won't be truly accepted into the group or won't feel like you're perceived as being worthy, your expertise level being worthy. And maybe you're one of those that gets compliments and you don't deal with compliments well because you're thinking in your heart of hearts, I just got lucky. And I hope to goodness that people don't perceive me to be some sort of a fraud or something. So if you can relate to these kinds of statements in your head, or somebody who can relate to this kind of thing, then this is what we're talking about. We're talking about imposter syndrome. And these types of thoughts can be very destructive, and they can really impact your experience along the career journey or the life journey, so to speak. If you have experienced any of those things that you just saw in those little bubbles, if you will, you're in really good company. And so we really want to talk about what is it that really causes this psychological process of feeling like we might be found out. So we'll talk about some of the causes and how it actually can have a negative impact on confidence level. And then we'll talk about some things you can do about it. And our desire is that by the end of our time together here, that you will feel like, one, you recognize when it's happening. 2, you can navigate through it. And even 3, if you know of somebody who's experiencing this, maybe you can be a resource and a help to them to help them sort of navigate through that as well. So we're going to start sort of with a level set, with a definition. And if there's, I see it just pop backwards. We're going to try it again here. So this is the definition that we're working with going forward, okay? It's that internal experience of believing that your accomplishments are due to luck rather than skill. And I would add to that and say that it is accompanied by this, what can actually be fear of being found out, being found to be a fraud. And again, if you can relate to this, honestly, you're in really good company, because there have been a lot of academic studies that have been done that say that upwards of 70% of people experience imposter syndrome in one degree or another. So consider yourself in good company. In fact, even some players, big players in Hollywood, have even admitted feeling imposter syndrome. Tom Hanks, believe it or not, has admitted that publicly, as well as Emma Watson. And she's not only is she an actress, but she's an ambassador with the UN for women. And so just think about the level of credibility and expertise that these people have to do what they do to make their living. Yet they themselves have also experienced what this is all about. So let's talk a little bit about who actually experiences imposter syndrome. You can see here that anybody can actually experience it. And oftentimes it is experienced by very gifted people. So again, you're in great company, right? Gifted people, people that have always found it easy to be successful or to achieve and be high achievers. What happens with these folks a lot of times is throughout their career, through their gaining their level of expertise, they find that they are being surrounded by more and more talented people as they progress. And these talented people may have equal talent or maybe even greater talent than they have. And so they begin to feel like they don't belong. And so, here again, nobody is really immune to this. And so we want you to sort of take that with you and realize don't sort of expand on that negative self-talk because it's just not that unusual for this to happen. Some of the more common reasons why people would have this experience is perfectionism. That would be one thing. Another thing would just be, fear of failure, and honestly, just plain old self-doubt. That's just kind of where we want to begin when we start to really understand this psychological phenomenon. Now, you may experience, I don't know where you are or what environment that you might find yourself in when you're having these kinds of thoughts, but it can present itself like during a job situation. Maybe you're starting a new job, or maybe it's just a new role. Maybe it's a new category of, a level within your profession. And you begin to question whether or not you're really deserving of that. Social settings, that can also be a trigger for this imposter syndrome. I sometimes, the example that I thought of as I was preparing for today to talk to you, as I was thinking about, I like art, but I'm no art connoisseur. So I've been to the Birmingham Museum of Art, and you'll walk around and you'll look at these magnificent works of arts, and that there are some people there that are connoisseurs. Maybe they're dealers, maybe they are artists themselves, or there's certain people there that may be collectors. And sometimes you might wonder, just a little bit of a degree of imposter syndrome, am I among people that really know what this art is all about and things of that nature? So the situations and the scenarios are so broad. Another example would just be in the higher education setting, going to college, feeling like maybe you don't deserve to be there with all these other great minds, when the truth of the matter is, you got in because of your exam scores, or you're pursuing an area of expertise where you've got some experience, things of that nature. Some other things that might be triggers would be maybe you've gotten an award, maybe you've been recognized for a project that you did, something like that, and you're a little uncomfortable with the attention because you think maybe you just got lucky, and goodness, I hope people don't find out that this was just a fluke kind of thing. And we do that negative talk in our head. And something as simple as what I'm doing here today, making a presentation, we may be asked because we're seen as somebody that has some level of expertise. But then when we get right there in the moment, we start to question whether or not we're the best person to speak about a particular topic. I'll give you an example. I'm relatively new to higher ed. I have been here for 2.5 years, and I came from healthcare. My role was administration, more of a corporate type of setting. But when I came here, I was asked to speak to at the Grand Rounds group. Now, I am not that unfamiliar with speaking with physicians in the room because I've been in healthcare for so long. However, to be asked to speak at Grand Rounds, in a teaching hospital situation really plays a number on you, so it's a bit intimidating. And again, these are things that I think everybody can really relate to. And so let's talk a little bit about why this happened, or really the origins of, where do these feelings come from? And you'll see here on this list, first and foremost, family. Don't we just love our family? Can't we just thank them for all kinds of things that we that we find ourselves dealing with? And the truth of the matter is you may come from a whole family of high achievers, and everybody expects that you are going to follow in the footsteps of your mother, your sister, your brother, your uncle, whatever the case may be. So that puts that extra pressure on you to stay and perform at a particular level, maybe more so than somebody else that did not come from that sort of a family background. I mentioned, social settings or whatever, but even, societal expectations can actually be a trigger for that. Societal expectations, maybe if you consider the fact that maybe you're female in a male-dominated environment or vice versa. And so there are certain expectations that you sort of run those through your head a lot and question whether or not you should be in a particular setting. Bias is certainly another origin, and whether it is, gender, age, ability, disability, challenges, things of that nature can make you question whether or not you are in the right environment or the best person maybe to represent in a particular environment. I mentioned being that overachiever or that high achiever, whether it comes from the family background or not. Maybe you are also maybe a trailblazer as well. Maybe you're doing something that nobody, not just in your family, but anybody around you has ever tried to do. I know in our environment, we have a lot of people that are into running, and you have triathletes and you have marathon runners and things of that nature. Well, maybe this is a first for you and you feel like you're representing a lot of people and you don't want to let people down. And so you tend to put extra pressure on yourself because you are that trailblazer. And so you can probably relate to one, some, or maybe even all of these as, where this is really coming from. And so I'm going to ask my colleague Amber to take it from here. And let's start to look at sort of the impact that these kinds of thoughts, destructive though they can be, can have on our decisions that we make for either career or life phases. So Amber, why don't you go ahead and take it away?
Thank you, Tammy. As Tammy mentioned earlier, there are some opportunities for us to reframe our thoughts around that internal feeling that we have that we are not good enough. So as you look at the slide here, it talks about individual career interference, but you could also consider this as part of family interference as well. So let's just look at a few of them together. And I want you to think about the emotion that you experience as we talk through it, and then your personal examples as well. So there's some negative emotions that may occur from imposter syndrome, where there's a series, as Tammy mentioned, of just negative feelings that I'm not good enough, or people have made some constructive comments to me that still resurface at times around language, jargon, or even terminology. So these can range from your anxiety pressures, from family to friends to even in your career. So that impacts you on a daily basis on how you engage with others. As I mentioned, stress and low energy can also impact how your involvement in your career, around your peers, and with your family. I'm going to talk about some opportunities to help you in these areas. But before we get there, I do want to make sure that we address how does it impact an individual. So as we continue, you may experience lower self-confidence. So imagine that you're preparing for a presentation. You've done all the logistics from preparing what you will say to your script to the people that will sit with you. If there's a partnership, you are a master at this gift in preparing. The day of the presentation, your self-confidence just goes all the way down. It may be the audience that you're presenting to. However, it's that internal feeling that you have that Tammy shared earlier. Some other things that may interfere is missing opportunities. For example, your supervisor, your peer may come to you and ask you about helping doing a presentation or maybe joining a project or a program. And that internal feeling that you're not capable or qualified enough may have you reluctant to sign up. It's not that you're not great, it's just that internal feeling of feeling that way, that you can miss some great opportunities that can lead you to the path that you want to create within your career. Less creativity. There's some roadblocks that you may see and say, wow, I think I may, but I'm not sure. So be mindful of that, because we're going to talk about how to change that language. And overall, it's harder to make decisions. You're always reluctant or indecisive to make a finalization on what's best for you. And as many of us know, failures create success and opportunity for more success. So we're not mentioning about the hospital individuals with surgeons and things. They have to follow their research. But if you're in a career that allows you to explore and be innovative, there will be some bumps in the road that you have an opportunity to learn, grow, and appreciate the feedback. So one strategy I'm going to start with is adopting a growth mindset. There's a book here that's on the screen that if you have not read, I highly encourage you to add it to your book list for 2025. It gives you an opportunity to look at how you can reframe your mindset in building a growth mindset. So one may ask how to develop a growth mindset. The first thing you have to consider is what you've learned from the past is taking you to where you want to be in the future. So you have to recognize that others' rapid progress may not be to your ability to stop how you can become creative. You're going to focus on the end results that you want to achieve. So it's reframing. It's actually thinking about studying and spending time on how you can be great. Many may ask, I've been in this mindset for so long. How do I start? Starting is by getting a partner to help you be accountable and reframing your thoughts. So where you may use the word stop, I cannot, things of that nature, you're going to reframe your communication. And by doing that, find you a peer or someone that works very closely with you in the event where you start to make that comment, that person can reassure you that there's another opportunity for you to think and consider about what you may want to do next. So I highly encourage that you start thinking about your communication plan. And many people pause and just take a moment before they say no. You know, no is an ended statement. Or they say, I'm not for certain. Do some research, do some investigation on how you can become better in your language. Reframing your thoughts. I'm going to give you some examples here. So imposter syndrome, as mentioned, I got this job through luck, as Tammy mentioned earlier. There's an alternative way to think about that. They must feel my skills are good. So if someone asks you to complete a task, it's something about your skills and talents or strengths that they really see that you can benefit from the program and how the program can benefit from you as well. That internal feeling, as mentioned earlier, is also, I'll get found out. People don't think I'm great. You can get better. So you may meet the standard or come close to the qualification of what's needed, but there's so much more you can do and so much more you can grow and learn with partnering with individuals and also taking a chance, taking a risk and saying, what can I do more of? And just as mentioned the last one, I don't match 100% of the job requirements. As I just stated, there's an opportunity for you to look at some more and engaging with others. Another strategy I want to talk about is building an emotional portfolio. It was about 2 years ago. I worked with our previous provost, Dr. Pam Benoit, and she mentioned how she would write down emotions and feelings when things were great, and she would place them in a jar. And it was a jar that she placed in her office. And at times when she felt in doubt or wasn't sure about an opportunity, she pulled those cards from her jar and she called it the joy jar. And it still sticks with me. And she said, it reminded her of the gifts and talents that she's been rewarded to share here at UAB with others, and how some of those skills and talents on those cards is what she needs at the moment. So here are 3 questions I want you to consider as you may want to start your joy jar. Is, when have you felt full of optimism and hope? And it's not about just the day, it's about the moment and what occurred during that moment. And you just write it down on a 5x7 index card and place it in your jar. Another one is, when have you feared the worst but still believed something good would happen? When no one else supported you, or you knew that, I want to try this. I think it's an opportunity to help someone, help a community, help my peers. Write down that something happened there. Even if it didn't go as planned, something allowed you to experience creativity, innovation, and for others to believe that you can complete a task. And that's very important. When have you found an inventive way to try to create a better future? So again, these are just some seed questions that Tammy and I thought would be a foundation for you to start placing in your joy jar. You can leave it at home, or you can leave it at work. It doesn't matter how many you put in per month. It's just when instances occur within your life this year, we would love for you to start placing them somewhere so you can surface back to those events and those, as I mentioned, skills and talents when needed for your next opportunity. Many times people say, well, the only time I may keep things up to date is during performance evaluation time. However, if you're feeling an internal feeling of, I'm always in doubt, you may want to start consider these instances more often. And how you do that is tracking your wins, right? So here's some additional questions that you may want to start jotting down in your journal, or creating something in a Word document that you can look back and say, what was the situation? What happened? Who was involved with it? Who are my stakeholders, or who are my partners and peers and colleagues and even supervisor that helped me throughout this situation? Because as we know, it's important that we coach each other. And how we can do that is holding each other accountable, but also making sure that we provide the resources and tools to be successful. What are some of the challenges, as I mentioned, and what was the achievement? But lastly, how did it make you feel? And that's part of the joy jar at the end. It's the feeling at the end of the situation. But leading up to that feeling, you have to collectively look at what happened, what occurred. So you may call it your joy jar. You may say it's my reflection, it's my resilience. However it looks, make sure that you're documenting and putting it in a place where you can pull it quickly and say, oh, this happened 3 months ago. Because at times we get so busy and bogged down in programs and projects that we're working on, we may miss what we need for the next big opportunity. So some key takeaways I want to leave with you today is, remember, you're not alone. As Tammy mentioned, others are as entertainers, people that you may even work with, family and friends that are suffering from imposter syndrome. Help others who may be dealing with it. You know, as I mentioned, find an accountability partner to help you reframe your thoughts, to say, no, let's think about how we can make this better. We won't not do the activity. We'll think about some modifications or some edits we need to do, but we will move forward. Reframe those negative thoughts. I mentioned a book earlier, The Growth Mindset, is absolutely stunning. It gives great examples that can really help you thrive in an area that you may be really struggling with. And then track your wins. Remember, your wins are important, and the emotions behind them will help to keep you motivated throughout your career. So I'll leave you with a quote from Michelle Obama. She mentions, I still have a little imposter syndrome. I share that with you because we all have doubts on our abilities, about our power and what power is. So Tammy and I would love your feedback, and I'm going to turn it back over to Greg at this moment.
Yeah, so I again apologize to our audience. I'm sharing right now the emotions portfolio. I was able to get that up, Amber, that you had sent me to our audience. If the audience can see it, they can download it, they can keep it, they can look at it, which is fantastic. I'm trying to limit how many keystrokes I actually do, or mouse clicks that I actually do right now, just because of the issues we had on the front end. So thank you so much for everybody that bared with us, for coming in. If you do have questions, go ahead, drop them in the chat. I've got another document that I'm going to toss up here in a few moments, but I want to give this one a little bit for the audience to have a chance to get it. I will also figure out how I can put it on our website so you can download it there as well. So we were going to ask a poll at one point before the wheels fall off the bus. What triggers your feelings of imposter syndrome the most? For our audience, what would it be? What triggers your feelings of imposter syndrome the most? I know, Amber, you went through a wide array, you and Tammy, of different things, and I apologize because I was on the back end trying to work on things, so I didn't get a chance to pay as close attention as I normally do. But go ahead, drop your answers in the chat. Drop questions in the chat as well. When it comes to imposter syndrome and you're dealing with it, Amber, talking through it, throughout one's career, do you see a time frame where it's more apparent than others?
I have, working with clients here internally here on campus, when there has been a career shift, when you're leaving one position and transferring to a different department and meeting new people, or you've had a personal change in your life, for example, marriage, children, a death in the family, there's some fear and reluctance in making decisions. And it could be for a number of reasons. So we have a personal perspective of it, but then the career perspective is when there's change that's occurring, even if there's a new dean, a new faculty member, even a new colleague. What I've seen most common is when there's a new colleague and a new supervisor. So there's double change at one time. There's so many different opportunities that one may feel reluctant in making decision based upon previous experiences or what may occur next.
And to go along with that question, a follow-up would be, how long can somebody expect to have imposter syndrome over one instance? Now, I assume it can be recurring, because I know I've experienced it, I don't know how many different times throughout my various careers and the different positions I've held. But is there a normal length, or is it just kind of teach their own and you just never know?
I think you said it best, Greg. You really don't have a time frame because it's an individual by individual case. However, the research has shown that when one works on reframing their thoughts and have an accountability partner at work or at home, the chances reduces their time with imposter syndrome. So one that may try to figure it out on their own, and it can go on for years, as we know, versus one that says, I'm going to buddy and share this experience with what I'm suffering from with Greg, my colleague. Greg is my accountability partner at work, and he's going to help reframe my thoughts, get me back engaged and motivated, and just push me a little, which is challenging me in a positive way. So it decreases over time. So the more we work on changing our mindset, the better we become in reducing imposter syndrome.
Are there other outlets that, and by the way, I'm sharing the second of those documents that you had sent, which is a test. So go ahead and download that as well. And if anybody didn't get the first one, let me know and I'll slide that back in a little bit. Are there certain outlets that people should take, if they're feeling it? Should they confide in a friend? Should they go on vacation? What gets people to bounce back as quick as possible?
The easiest approach I've seen first and foremost is communication. You have to communicate that you sense that something is wrong with someone. And the person that you communicate that with is someone that you trust. So I have to start there. The foundation of trusting that individual. They may not have what you need at the moment, but they can provide a resource or to keep you connected and working on it. So the first part is communication, communicating that to someone, preferably that you work with on your team, and then someone in your family. On the family side, as Tammy mentioned, it may be not maybe a sibling, it could be a distant cousin, it could be someone that's familiar with the family dynamics to help coach you on the communication that's needed if you're struggling with your mom or your dad or your siblings, someone that's pretty biased and they're not there to take sides, but to help you in having a better relationship with family. On the professional side, you want someone on your team that you can trust or someone that you previously have worked with. And they can help guide you and coach you based upon they know your personality and your character style of learning. So that person will give you some hard love, it's like I like to say, and giving you some tools and resources also to help you professionally grow instead of hindering you in an area where people may say, oh, well, Amber just doesn't want to do that program. She's always argumentative about it. That may not be the case. So you want someone that you can trust to say, let's start from a clean sheet of paper and think about how can we communicate better with others.
And I think one of the things you said, and it was when I was eavesdropping and doing other things, was you're here for a reason. I go back to a year and a half, whatever ago, my daughter was accepted into a PT program, and they addressed imposter syndrome within the first couple of days, basically saying, you're here, to the entire class, you're here for a reason. So imposter syndrome, yes, it's going to be real, but you do have to know that you were selected for a reason. To go through those unofficial poll results, when I asked, what makes them feel like they are lacking a little bit, negative thoughts, difficult situations at work, even though they've been through those situations again and again, comparing themselves to other, when they don't have an answer for something, they're just not sure. They're feeling downgraded. They have negative thoughts, new supervisors. We just talked about changing different departments, roles, different leaders as well. Incompetent, negative thoughts, age gap. I mean, there's a wide array of different answers that could fall into place with that. So Amber, again, thank you so much for being a part of today's webinar. I apologize to you. I apologize to Tammy for struggling through with me the technical issues. Happy New Year. Ooh, 2025. Hopefully that's not an indication of what is to come, but I appreciate your willingness to be here and your willingness to fight through the struggles that we have.
Not a problem at all, Greg. It's technology. It happens. You did great.
It sure does. Thank you so much. You as well. In a moment, I'm going to highlight a few upcoming virtual offerings for you. Just a quick reminder, we plan to upload this onto our website. Once it's ready, live attendees will get an email with a link. I'm going to try to edit a few things together, so it might take a little bit longer than normal to get it done because we want the slides to match best as possible. Amber, thank you so much again. Meanwhile, here are some upcoming webinars for you. Let's see if we can get there. We go. It works at the end of everything. On January 21st, our popular The Science of series returns with the science of oral health and how bad breath could tell you about something about your overall health. Dr. Nico Gers will provide tips on how to make sure our oral health is top-notch. On February 5th, Dr. Alan Gorman returns as a guest for Networking Without Borders, Building a Network in a Remote World, as we learn about the unique challenges and opportunities digital settings provide. On February 27th, we'll host Designing Your Impactful Career, where we'll welcome experts from our Career Design Fellowship partnership with Mission Collaborative. Gain insight and learn strategies on how you can make intentional choices that lead to a more meaningful and impactful career. And on March 26th, Dr. Gorman will be back, second time in a month, Leading with Heart, the Power of Compassionate Leadership. During this webinar, he'll take a look at the transformative impact and empathy and understanding in leadership roles. You can register for these and more at alumni.uab.edu/events. Your feedback is important to us. The QR code that is on your screen is going to take you to a very short survey. Let us know how we're doing and what kind of webinars you'd like to see offered in the future. Please be kind today with the technology issues, the technical errors that we had with the platform that is on the platform. It'll be all ironed out by our next webinar. Once again, thank you so much for joining us. And as always, go Blazers.